1. Athens, hands in the air, names in the jar. Climb the dusty hill to the Knicks and squint into the sun. 10,000 citizens, men only, are packed shoulder to shoulder, sandals grinding limestone to powder. A herald shouts the motion, a silver-tongued orator rolls thunder over the crowd, and then the most ancient ballad of all time happens. Hands go up. Not secret, not subtle, public courage or public conformity, depending on your stomach. Decisions feel alive because they are embodied. You can measure an argument by the shadow of 1,000 arms. Athens had a second trick: randomness. Offices and megajuries were filled by lot, seeds rattling through a stone machine called the kleroterion. The logic was beautiful. If factions capture elections, roll dice, the factions can't load. Sortition pulled bakers and boatmen to office for short stints, flattening the distance between the ruled and the rulers. For a city-state, it worked shockingly well. You couldn't build a permanent political class if the job could be yours next spring. So why did it fail? Start with the obvious. Citizen meant a slice of the population. No women, no slaves, no resident foreigners. The most radical democracy in the ancient world ran on exclusion. Then there's performance. A hand vote is clean, but it's also theater. If your general is on the rock promising victory, do you raise your arm for him or against your neighbor's gaze? Charisma becomes a superweapon. Demagogues learn to surf applause into policy. Randomness has limits too. Lot shines at small, rule-bound tasks and jury duty. It stumbles in complex, long-horizon statecraft where expertise and continuity matter, and scale breaks the spell. What fits a city of 30,000 citizens cannot steer an empire stitched from islands and tribute. Athens leaves us a gorgeous contradiction, a system built to dodge elite capture that quietly captured power from most of the people living under it. A system that trusted ordinary hands and then asked those hands to perform in public. The lesson isn't democracy doesn't work. It's that openness without breadth and participation without privacy bends toward noise and bravado. The hill is still there. The hand still rises. But if you want truth more than theater, you'll eventually have to hide the ballot and widen the circle. Rome, voting by the rich, counting by the block. It's an election day in the late Republic, and the Forum is a nervous beehive. Citizens file into roped-off enclosures by century, not by head count. Sounds neutral until you learn centuries are weighted by wealth. The richest centuries vote first, and often in such numbers that by the time the poorest are called, the decision is effectively over. Another assembly votes by tribe, but geography can be gamed. Rural tribes are slow and thin, urban tribes thick with clients who can be marched to the polls. If Athens was theater, Rome is choreography. Magistrates control the agenda. A narrow elite sets the choices long before citizens gather. Money oils everything. Gifts that aren't called bribes, favors that aren't called debts. You can feel the modernity of it, procedural, organized, plausible. On paper, the people choose. In practice, the people ratify. Why did it fail? Because it solved stability by quietly installing tilt. The architecture rewarded the already powerful. First movers, wealthy centuries got loud voices. Late voters carried whispers. The physical act of voting, show up in Rome, stand all day, wait your turn, was its own filter. If you worked a field 2 days away, universal participation meant abandoning a harvest. The assemblies could be suspended for omens. Sessions could be stretched until opponents drifted home. And even when a popular wave crested, the elite had valves. The Senate's moral authority, procedural delays, and the constant churn of patron-client networks that made independence expensive. In the end, Rome didn't lose voting, it outgrew it. Civil wars revealed what the ballots had been masking. Power clustered where legions loyally pointed their spears. When the dust settled, emperors kept the language of the Republic the way a restaurant keeps its vintage sign, nostalgia on the facade, new menu inside. The Roman message is crisp. If the unit of voting is a block that someone else defines and the order of voting decides the outcome, you can have elections without consent. It looks like voice. It feels like gravity. 3. The estates, candles, robes, and the veto of status raw. Picture a vaulted hall lit by beeswax. On one side, clergy, on another, nobles. Somewhere beyond the pillars, commoners, merchants, guild heads, city deputies, shifting on wooden benches. You've entered an estates assembly, the medieval habit of voting by order. Those who pray, those who fight, those who work. Each estate deliberates apart and delivers a single yea or nay, which means a minority inside an order disappears into its robe. Two orders agree, and the third is outvoted even if the head count says otherwise. At its best, this arrangement kept kings from treating the realm like a personal purse. Need new taxes? Ask the estates. They'll bargain rights for revenue, charters for coin. City councils, curia, refined the technique, guilds and lineages sending delegates to ratify budgets and bylaws. The method prized stability. Change came wrapped in ceremony, and yesterday's privileges woke up safe in the morning. So where does it crack? First, by design. Representation is granted to categories, not to persons. If your category is weak in the room, peasants without a voice, dissenters trapped inside a louder majority, your interests are air. Second, by veto. When each order can stall the others, gridlock becomes a weapon. Nobles block taxes until exemptions spread like ivy. Clergy bargain doctrine for property. The commons appear as a single mouth while speaking a dozen hungry dialects. Third, by distance. Delegates owe loyalty upward to bishop, lord, guild, more than outward to the nameless many, and backroom deals become the real ballot. The estates model didn't vanish, it mutated. 2 chambers here, 3 orders there, corporate votes by university or monastery elsewhere. The costumes changed, the logic stayed. Status first, number second. It failed not because negotiation is bad, but because the map of who mattered was frozen while the country moved on. When towns swelled and trades multiplied, the old boxes couldn't hold the new people. Pressure built. In some places, constitutions stretched. In others, they tore. Stand in that candlelit hall a moment longer. You can hear the elegance, a society voting as a hierarchy of responsibilities, and you can hear the flaw, a society mistaking inherited roles for living consent. The lesson is old and evergreen. The moment procedure protects the past more than it measures the present, procedure becomes its own opposition. 4. Conclaves and the Venetian Scramble. Smoke signals and loaded dice. Shut the doors, nail the planks, and pass the ballots. The Sistine Chapel is a pressure cooker of whispered alliances and exhausted prayer. Names are written, folded, pierced with a needle strung on a thread. The stoves are fed. Black smoke means not yet. White smoke means the world has a new father. The rule is elegant, a supermajority or nothing. The theory behind it is even better. Force factions to agree on someone broad enough to shepherd all. Across the Adriatic, Venice engineered something even stranger to pick a doge, a ritual that ping-ponged between random selection and voting. Draw lots to pick electors. Those electors vote to pick new electors. Repeat, repeat, hoping to scramble family machines and starve conspiracies. It was politics as lock puzzle. Too many tumblers to pick, too many turns to prearrange. Why did such careful contraptions fail? Because they optimized for stability, not representation. In Rome, the 2/3 rule did dampen factional spikes, but it also rewarded backstage bargaining and IOUs you'll never read. In Venice, the scramble broke simple coups but crowned the city's most acceptable stalemate. Safe elders, cautious managers, the candidate least offensive to entrenched houses. Both systems fought capture by multiplying filters, and discovered that filters become their own gatekeepers. Add enough ceremony and you can sanctify a cartel. Bribes don't leave fingerprints when the bargain is a cousin's abbacy or a nephew's trade concession 5 winters later. Stand under the frescoes a moment longer. You can feel the genius. Design a maze so devious that raw power can't sprint through it. You can also feel the cost. Mazes favor those who live in them. Ordinary citizens never even see the walls. The smoke rises, the bell tolls, the city nods, and the coalition that could survive the labyrinth becomes the coalition that governs you. Number 5, acclamation and plebiscite. The loudest yes. There's no ballot here, just bodies and breath. The herald asks the question, and a wave of noise answers back. Cheers, chants, a roar that seems to have weight. In older times, soldiers raised their shields and shouted a new emperor into being. In town squares, the crowd's voice affirmed law and leader with a public "I." Later, the technology got cleaner. A single question printed on paper, one box for yes, one for no, paraded as the purest consent of all. Acclamation flatters our sense that truth is obvious when we all stand together. Plebiscites flatter power's need for a headline. The people have spoken. And, sometimes for a breath, the thing is honest. Genuine joy amplified by proximity. Then the traps arrive. Public voice is theater. Your neighbor is listening, your employer is watching, the guards are nearby. The louder the square, the fewer safe places to dissent. The single question plebiscite is theater too, just in a quieter suit. Who wrote the question? Who counted? What else was on offer besides yes and chaos? Failure here is baked into the format. Acclamation rewards performative courage and punishes private conscience. Plebiscites compress complex futures into a binary that power scripts and schedules. Turnout becomes a weapon, starve the no side by making the line an ordeal, and mandates become masks. 90% approval in a room where 30% couldn't afford to show up. You can feel the seduction, decisions in one syllable, legitimacy in one photo. But self-government needs privacy and plural choices. Both vanish when consent is a shout or a checkbox drafted by the winner. Picture the square at dusk, the chant thinning as people drift home. The posters will say unity. The air will remember the quiet pockets where mouths stayed closed. 6. Unanimity. One word that stops the worldo. The chamber is tired. Wax puddles, ink stains bloom, and then a single delegate stands. Nie pozwalam. I do not allow it. In the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, that sentence, the liberum veto, could dissolve the entire session of the same. One voice, one veto, 1 year's worth of lawmaking blown out like a candle. The principle behind it wasn't madness, it was a hedge against tyranny. If every noble's liberty mattered, no noble could be steamrolled. You can almost love the purity of it. Consensus or nothing, harmony or try again. In small circles, among people bound by trust and shared purpose, unanimity can be a sacrament. We stay in the room until the last doubt has been heard, but scale it to national stakes, add foreign gold and domestic pride, and unanimity becomes a ransom note. Bribe one man, block a kingdom. Threaten one estate, freeze reform. Gridlock hardens into habit, habit invites partition. The deeper failure isn't only bribery, it's fragility. Systems need ways to chew through disagreement without exploding. Unanimity makes every disagreement an existential crisis. Compromise becomes surrender, delay becomes victory. Meanwhile, time works for the people who like the current arrangement just fine. You can feel the irony. A rule forged to protect the many from the one becomes the one's best weapon against the many. Think of your own life's small councils, teams, clubs, families, where everyone must agree quietly empowers the most risk-averse voice. Good consensus processes exist, but they require strong facilitation, deep trust, and an exit ramp when agreement is honest-to-God impossible. Without that, unanimity turns from a shield into a wall. In the same case, the wall became a cliff. 7. Plurality first past the post, the horse race that crowned plurality. Doors open at 7 a.m., coffee in cardboard cups, a tally board taped to the wall. It feels clean. One seat, many names, most votes wins. The night ends with a ribbon cut, first past the post. But watch the numbers as they roll in. 3 strong candidates, 34%, 33%, 33%. The winner has the least opposition only because the other two split the larger mood. The district wakes up represented by someone a majority didn't want. FPTP looks fair because it's simple. Its trap is the spoiler effect. A new voice you like? Great. Until it helps elect the person you like least. Voters learn to hold their noses. Parties learn to starve newcomers. Over time, Duverger's law kicks in. Third parties become threats, not ideas, and the system hardens into a 2-lane highway policed by fear. Vote your heart, lose your rights is a nasty teacher. The map joins the mischief. Because small swings flip whole seats, drawing the lines becomes combat. Pack, crack, tilt. Each district becomes a sculpture of advantage. None of this is an accident, it's an incentive. If 1 more percent can flip everything, you engineer for that percent. The failure isn't that plurality never picks a good leader, it often does. The failure is that it reliably punishes honest preference and rewards tactical silence. You get horse race coverage, lesser evil ballots, and a politics that speaks to swing counties while ignoring safe ones. Simple is beautiful, until it erases most of what people tried to say. 8. Block at-large plurality. Winner takes all, again and again. Same ballot energy, different twist. There are 5 city council seats this year, and your ballot says, vote for up to 5. Sounds generous. You scribble a balanced slate, 2 reformers, 1 neighborhood advocate, 2 steady hands, and head home feeling represented. Count night tells a different story. The city's biggest faction voted as a block, disciplined and loud. Their 5 names top the list: And because the rule is top 5 win, they sweep every seat. 49% of the city just vanished from the table. At-large plurality is a photocopier. It reproduces the largest group 5 times. Minorities notice fast. Bullet voting becomes survival. Mark 1 or 2 names, not 5, to avoid accidentally helping a rival. Parties publish sample ballots. Churches and unions circulate slates. Elections turn into choreography contests. The best organizer wins all, the rest eat crumbs. Neighborhoods with thin numbers never see themselves on the dais, and citywide issues blur into whoever can assemble the biggest marching band. The failure here is structural, not moral. A rule that repeats winner-take-all n times produces monoculture. It can be calm, even competent, and still blind. Reform movements that spring from this pain often reach for districts, 1 seat per area, cumulative voting, multiple votes you can pile on one candidate, or SEV, ranking with transfers, to keep majorities honest and give minorities a foothold. Until then, at-large plurality keeps teaching the same dull lesson. Diversity at the ballot box can still yield a single voice on the stage. 9. 2-round runoff. Majority, eventually, maybe. Round 1 feels like a market day. 10 candidates, 10 tents, idealists, managers, firebrands, a famous surname with better posters than policies. You vote with your whole heart because the rule promises mercy. If no one crosses 50%, the top 2 face off in a clean duel. A week or 2 later, the signs come down, new ones go up, and the city refuels for the rematch. On paper, the runoff fixes plurality's core sin. The winner will have a majority. In practice, it swaps one distortion for several. Turnout falls in round 2. The committed return, the tired stay home. Endorsements become currency. Candidates who loathe each other on Monday clasp hands on Tuesday and trade their voters like baseball cards. The runoff battlefield narrows to not them, and vision shrinks into negative coalitions. There's also a fairness riddle. Your favorite finished third with 24%, just 2 points behind second place. In an instant runoff simulation, their voters' second choices might have carried them to victory. Here they're eliminated, full stop. You are told to choose between flavors you didn't order. Meanwhile, the calendar saps money and patience. Campaigns pivot from talk to everyone to wake our base, and the city learns to care in bursts and nap in between. 2-round systems do produce clear mandates sometimes, especially where parties are few and turnout holds. But their failure mode is predictable. Costly reruns, shrinking electorates, and a politics that leans on backstage deals to stitch a majority that ballots alone didn't reveal. If democracy is a conversation, 2 rounds can feel like the part where half the room leaves before the big decision. 13. Approval voting, all the candidates you can live with. The ballot looks like a shopping list. Tick every candidate you'd be okay with. No rankings, no numbers. Just yes to Alice, yes to Ben, no to Kara. Tally night is almost child simple. Whoever collects the most approvals wins. The pitch is elegant. Stop punishing honesty. If 2 candidates are similar, approve them both. If a long shot speaks to you, approve them without spoiling anything. Watch how human nature sneaks in. You start the week generous. Sure, I approve Alice and Ben. By Friday, the attack ads are humming and your brain is playing defense. You set a threshold. Only approve the one who can beat the villain. Your friend goes the other way, approves everyone except the frontrunner they despise, hoping to lift any plausible rival. Multiply that by a city and approval becomes a mood ring. Does a checkmark mean love, like, or fine, whatever? In a close race, cautious voters bullet approve just one to avoid helping an opponent with a last-minute surge. Under pressure, the system quietly leans back toward plurality, just with different stationery. There's a second wobble, ambiguous mandates. The winner might have broad, thin support, approved by many as a backup, but inspire no one. That can be healthy in a fractured town. It can also feel like electing a shrug. On the losing side, a passionate 49% approved only their champion, and now sees a victor who never cleared 50% of first-choice love. Cue legitimacy arguments no bar graph can settle. Still, watch a good approval election and you'll see calmer campaigns. If I can't be your number one, at least check my box, and fewer spoiler nightmares. The failure isn't collapse, it's signal blur and strategic thresholds that turn a clean idea into a foggy conversation. We asked the ballot to capture okayness. The ballot did. Our lizard brains demanded win at all costs, and the checkboxes learned that language too. At 14, score, range, and star. 5 stars would govern again. Now your ballot looks like a movie app. Rate each candidate from 0 to 5. Add the scores. The highest average wins. It's intoxicating for policy nerds. You can reward nuance. A solid 4 for the steady hand, a 5 for your favorite, a 2 for the noisy reformer whose budget math scares you but whose courage you respect. Then there's star. Score first, then let the 2 highest scoring candidates face a runoff, where your ballot automatically supports the one you scored higher. It promises the best of both worlds, expressive ratings and a head-to-head finish. Enter the old game with a new costume, max-min bulleting. If you suspect the race is tight, you slam your favorite with 5s and stamp rivals with 0s, because moderation feels like unilateral disarmament. Meanwhile, your neighbor is a strict grader who never gives 5s. Whose 4 means what? Calibration turns into culture war. My 4 versus your 5. Campaigns adapt, of course. One side pleads for honest scoring, the other quietly distributes cards. Us 5, them 0, others 1. The average still computes, the meaning slides. Star patches some of this by forcing a clean duel at the end, and that helps legitimacy. But Star inherits the exaggeration incentive people still bullet, plus a fresh narrative tangle. She had the highest average, but he won the Star runoff because more people slightly preferred him. It's logical, majority preference at the end, and still hard to headline without a paragraph. Used well, scoring systems surface broadly acceptable leaders and drain poison from campaigns. Please, give me a 4 if not a 5. Their failure mode isn't chaos, it's that honesty and strategy share the same dial, and under stress, voters crank strategy. The scoreboard stays beautiful. The human inputs get spiky. When the dust settles, you can elect a worthy adult and still argue for weeks about what the numbers really meant. 1 vote, many seats, endless faction drama. Picture a 5-seat district with 10 candidates. Under single non-transferable vote, you get 1 vote. Top 5 finishers win. That's it. Parties love the simplicity. No math puzzles on TV. But inside each party, it's a knife fight with rules. Here's the trap. Your party must split its own vote just right. Put too many candidates on the slate, loyal supporters scatter, and none of them clear the bar. Run too few, and you leave seats on the table. Suddenly, backroom bosses are not just picking which candidates to bless. They're handing out target quotas neighborhood by neighborhood. You aim for 3,800 votes, you 3,200. Voters become pieces on a party spreadsheet. On election night, SNTV punishes enthusiasm as often as apathy. A charismatic newcomer siphons a few hundred votes from a veteran of the same party, both drop below the cutoff. A rival faction sneaks into the 5th seat. Afterward, the blame is bloodless but real. You weren't supposed to be that popular. Meanwhile, minority communities within the district struggle. With only 1 bullet to cast, they must perfectly coordinate around a single champion or vanish from representation. Miss by a hair, and the majority faction posts 4 out of 5 winners. SNTV's defenders praise its local flavor and low barrier to entry. There's truth there. Small groups can win a seat with disciplined focus. But the system's everyday failure is that it turns parties inward, away from persuading the public and towards slicing their own coalition into obedient rations. Voters don't get a chorus, they get a seating chart. 16. Ranks, quotas, and the long count. Now for the cousin that tries to fix SNTV's cannibalism. Single transferable vote. Multi-member district, but you rank candidates. A quota, often the droop quota, is set. Anyone who hits it is elected. Their surplus votes flow to voters' next choices. The last-placed candidates get eliminated in rounds, transferring their ballots as they go. In theory, almost nothing is wasted. In practice, you've built a Rube Goldberg machine of fairness. When it sings, STV is gorgeous. Neighborhoods and minorities can elect someone without winning a plurality. Parties can run teams without self-sabotage. Excess love for a star candidate spills to their allies. You watch the count unfold like a relay race. Batons of preference passed from the eliminated to the still alive until the room reflects the city better than winner-take-all ever did. Then the count hits round 9 and the opacity tax comes due. Surplus distributions use fractions that make sense to mathematicians and sound like wizardry to everyone else. Your ballot helped elect Priya. Great. But 1/7 of it then boosted Anton, and 1/3 of that flowed to May after Anton dropped. And by midnight, you're tweeting at the election office about why a decimal of your soul is sitting in a spreadsheet. Add exhausted ballots. You stopped ranking at number 3 and all 3 are now out, and the supposed majority for the final seat is a majority of those still in the transfer chain, not of the whole electorate. Parties learn new games, too. They stage manage slates to optimize transfers, begging you to rank the team in a careful order. Donkey voting, ranking top to bottom as printed, becomes a minor but real artifact when voters are tired. Constituency ties can blur. Who exactly is your representative when 5 share the district and your vote was 1/13 of Priya and 2/9 of May? Even with the headaches, STV's everyday result is often healthier councils and fewer shutouts. Its failure isn't intent, it's comprehension. Counting by hand used to take days. Counting by computer takes seconds, but steals the theater that makes losers nod and say, fair enough. If democracy needs both math and myth, STV aces the math and struggles with the myth, unless your city invests hard in civic education and beautifully transparent counts. 17. Party list PR, numbers in, parties out. The ballot is tidy. Pick a party, not a person. Somewhere backstage, a formula, Daunt Zeitlage, take your pick, turns vote shares into seats. It feels like justice at last. 18% of the votes, 18% of the parliament. On count night, the scoreboard looks like a pie chart hardening into furniture. No more winner-take-all shutouts. Small parties step into the light. Then you meet the list. If it's closed, party leaders decide who sits where. Voters bless the brand, not the human. Loyal workhorses jump the line. Local heroes vanish to slot 19. If it's open, you can shuffle ranking with preference ticks, but the party still curates the playlist and campaigns bend toward intra-party choreography. Either way, your member of parliament can feel more like the party's employee than your neighbor. Representation widens, accountability diffuses. Coalition arithmetic becomes the country's second language. 22 plus 16 plus 9 beats 31. So 3 parties write a contract thicker than a phone book. Sometimes it's beautifully grown-up politics. Sometimes it's cartel behavior. Funding rules and thresholds nudge to freeze newcomers, while the same faces trade ministries like baseball cards. Add a 5% threshold and you muzzle tiny cranks. Raise it to 10 and you start silencing real currents. The failure isn't that party list PR miscounts the people. It's that it can over-empower gatekeepers and under-explain mandates. Who asked for this coalition? Everyone and no one. Laws pass by negotiation more than persuasion, and the public learns to vote for vibes while deals hatch in rooms with better coffee than windows. Mixed member systems. 2 ballots, 2 masters. Now the ballot splits. 1 vote for your district MP, 1 for a party to balance overall fairness. In MMP, Germany's style, list seats compensate for district distortions, so final totals mirror the national share. In MMM, Japan's variant, list seats are added on top. Less corrective, more layer cake. You get the local handshake and the national pie chart. Best of both worlds, right? On good days, yes. Your local potholes have a nameplate to nag, and the chamber still looks like the country. On bad days, you meet the system's ghosts. Overhang seats appear when a party wins more districts than its share warrants. Now you need extra list seats to rebalance, and the house swells like a winter coat. Districts remain gerrymanderable. Mapmakers still sculpt outcomes, and split-ticket strategies bloom. Vote Pat locally, us nationally. Accountability blurs. Your district MP points to the ministry, party policy. The list MP points to the party whip, coalition constraint. You point to your ballot and wonder which half was heard. Meanwhile, parties learn to run 2 classes of politician, constituency stars and list technocrats, and the incentive tilts towards serving the spreadsheet that maximizes seats rather than the street that maximizes trust. The failure isn't fatal. Mixed systems often govern well, but their chronic ache is muddled credit and blame. When everyone is a little responsible for everything, nobody is fully responsible for anything, and voters start grading on vibes again. 19. Electoral colleges and other indirections. Choose the choosers. You vote in November. A small, mostly invisible group votes in December. That's the electoral college logic. Interpose a layer to cool passions, balance regions, and keep campaigns from living only in cities. Indirect election pops up elsewhere too. Upper houses chosen by state legislatures, CEOs crowned by shareholder proxies, presidents picked by parliaments. Indirection feels prudent until it misfires. In close races, the college can contradict the national popular vote. Suddenly, the road to power is a handful of swing states, while safe states become spectators. Candidates campaign for acreage, not head counts. Add winner-take-all rules in most states, and millions of minority votes go into a black hole. Sprinkle in faithless electors, rare but theatrical, and the legitimacy ceiling lowers another inch. Elsewhere, the story rhymes. When a chamber elects the head of state, the public watches a second-order election it can't directly influence, and the bargaining looks like smoke. When city councils pick mayors from within, you get consensus that smells like a caucus lunch. Indirection isn't evil, it's just a translation layer, and translations always drop nuances. The will of the people becomes the will of the people who pick the people. The failure here is misalignment risk. If the intermediary incentive diverges from the public's, the bridge turns into a filter. In quiet times, nobody minds. In loud times, you hear the rattle in the bolts. 20. Digital, online, and liquid democracy. The future with footguns. Tap to vote from your couch. Delegate your vote to a climate expert for environmental bills. Reclaim it for local housing. Pass it to a friend for tech policy. That's the dream. E-voting for convenience, liquid democracy for agile expertise. Votes flow like streams. Representation becomes a living network. Then the internet remembers what it's best at: breaking neat ideas. Start with security. A secret ballot must stay secret from governments, employers, spouses, and from your own compromised phone. Malware, SIM swaps, router-level snooping, coercion at the kitchen table. Paper hides your choice in a booth. Phones put it in a pocket someone else can unlock. Add identity headaches, proving one person equals one vote without building a surveillance panopticon, and the crypto buzzwords begin to sweat. Liquid democracy adds a social twist. Delegation sounds elegant until you map it and find a handful of hyper-engaged hubs soaking up thousands of proxies. Now you've rebuilt party bosses with nicer UX. Delegation churn creates volatility. Coordinated brigades can swing outcomes on Tuesday night and ghost on Wednesday. Transparency collides with privacy. To audit the system, you want open graphs. To protect voters, you want darkness. Pick wrong, and you get either trust theater or safety theater. Digital tools can widen participation. Secure kiosks, accessible interfaces, faster counts, auditable paper trails. The failure is premature centrality, treating the most failure-prone layer, personal devices, live delegations, as the foundation. Until we can guarantee both anonymity and verifiability against nation-state attackers and kitchen table coercion, full online voting remains a high-wire act over a canyon. The future probably mixes analog bones with digital nerves, hand-marked or machine-marked paper with risk-limiting audits, plus careful experiments in issue-level delegation where stakes are lower and exit is easy. The promise is real. So are the footguns.